What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're back in Destiny 2 for the 14th of January, where we have the first update for the year. So, a new patch today with a bunch of changes. Some of them have been previously outlined by Bungie, others are new. We'll do our best to cover all of the relevant patch notes here in the video. And otherwise, we have the weekly reset as well, taking us into the final 3 weeks of the episode, which many players will be pleased about, of course. So we can continue with the episode this week. We also should have the return of Iron Banner for the final time, as well as some other new content to round up. So we'll talk about all of that, as well as rounding up vendors, the Eververse inventory for the week, updates for rewards, featured activities, and a handful of other things in the video. So guys, if you enjoy this one, a rating below really does help us on the channel, but otherwise, now let's get into it. And first up this week, we should mention Act 3 simply continues as we go beyond the weekly reset. So if you're working on fieldwork, upgrades for Slayer's Fang, anything associated with Act 3, we can just simply continue to do that for the next 3 weeks. So let us know if you're wrapping anything up with the reset, and as always, I'll be keeping you up to date with Bungie news, all of the details for Heresy, which should be rolling out in the very near future. So keep it locked and loaded here on the channel, and as always, I'll keep you up to date. Next up though, we have patch notes for the update that we've had today, which is update 8153. As we discussed in the video earlier today, there are a handful of changes for weapons in this update, some smaller tuning for different archetypes and things. So we won't go into all of those numbers right here once again, but other changes which have been confirmed, and for Renix Unified in Vesper's Host, they fixed an issue where using Hunter's Shadow Shot super ability could result in the encounter crashing, and they've reduced the number of active servitors that appear when splitting the boss during DPS. And so they've re-enabled Hunter's Shadow Shot super ability in this activity after a very extended period of time, so it's good to finally see that one. Additionally though, for the Titan and Stoicism, they've reduced the heal impulse when using Thruster on the Spirit of Alpha Lupi and Crest of Alpha Lupi, so Spirit gets a reduction to 30 HP and Crest gets a reduction to 60 HP, which is an interesting one. Then for the Warlocks Balador's Wrathweavers, they fixed an issue where they could increase damage dealt by shadowing targets frozen with Winter's Wrath far more than intended. On top of that, for Mantle of Battle Harmony, they fixed one where the perk could be activated during Song of Flame to extend its duration. And for Storm Dancer's Brace, they fixed an issue where it wouldn't refund super energy if the player was in Transcendence during their Storm Trance super. And then finally for Hunters and Celestial Nighthawk, they fixed an issue where Golden Gun incorrectly was receiving the boosted Roman super recharge benefits when Celestial Nighthawk was equipped. So that's another one that's been active for a while. Sad to see it go, I guess. In general though, they fixed an issue where the Iron Intent armor set was missing from the Iron Lord's Pride intrinsic perk, another where Solar Weapon Boost ×4 was unable to be applied via exotics like Mantle of Battle Harmony, Foe Tracer, or Path of Burning Steps. Then for the exotic weapons, of course, they did revert the Graviton Lance RPM back to 300, so it'll fire slower now. For Whisper of the Worm, they reduced the camera roll component of flinch against players by 50%, so that'll be nice. And for Ace of Spades, they fixed an issue where the Firefly perk was dealing kinetic damage instead of solar damage. So some interesting fixes here, but finally, they also fixed an issue where the Scavenger's Fate Shotgun unintentionally received Demolitionist, and this perk will be replaced with Slide Shot, and enhanced versions of that perk will be replaced with Enhanced Slide Shot instead. They also fixed an issue where the Omniscient Eye Sniper didn't have access to Enhanced Precision Instrument at the Relic crafting table, and one where Season of Arrival's version of Crimmel's Dagger had incorrect stats, as well as an issue that allowed the Harmony and Discord perks to be activated by using certain abilities or getting onto vehicles. So those are the extra changes on top of the weapon tuning that they had already announced. Of course, some of that weapon tuning will benefit a bunch of weapons, like SMGs, getting a magazine size increase of 10 to 15%, and some of the stuff for PvP will be generally pretty decent for a bunch of archetypes. So give us your thoughts below and I'll link the patch notes there as well. Next up though, with all of the reading out of the way, let's take a look at the Eververse store for the week, and we will focus on Bright Dust stuff as always. So on the front page, we've got the Synchrotron Advancer exotic ship, which is up for 2,000 Bright Dust, returning from a few seasons back right there. Also, the Feast of Feelings exotic emote is up for 3,250 Bright Dust right here. So have a quick preview of that one. If you fancy some lonely noshing on calories to improve your mood. There's also Overflowing Treasure projection right here for 1,500 Bright Dust, if you fancy spending a bit. And then we've got the Empirical Imperative shader here from back in Season of the Seraph. These are 300 Bright Dust. That might be one for some folks to grab. There's also the Shattered Sinew available this week on the front page as well which is quite a nice one from the 30th anniversary. But moving over to the main Bright Dust section, we've got the Wiggle Worm exotic emote, which I feel like has been up a few times. This one 3,250 Bright Dust right there. Additionally, there is Slow Jam, a legendary multiplayer emote here for 1,250 Bright Dust, if you're in the mood. Then moving on, we've got the Archangel Shell exotic ghost for 2,850 Bright Dust, with some Warmind vibes right there. Additionally, the Ark's Courier exotic ship is up for grabs this week. A bit of a Seraph vibe going on. This one's 2,000 Bright Dust. And then we've got the Mud-Caked Monstrosity exotic sparrow for 2,500 Bright Dust, once again from back in the 30th anniversary era. And then moving on, we've got the Opalized Nobility ornament for Rat King. So this one was introduced in the last episode. It was previously silver only, so I think this is the first time that it comes up for Bright Dust. And of course, these are 1,250 Bright Dust. There is also the Corvidae projection on the main section here for 1,500 Bright Dust. But for the second page of shaders, we've got Deep Sea Jaunt up first. As always, these are 300 Bright Dust. One from the Black Armory there. Additionally, Verdigris is up this week, which is rather green, greeny blue indeed. And then we've got the Royal Welcome up for grabs as well. Nice one from back in the Opulence days. And Raven Silk, which is a new one for this episode, it would appear. So have a quick look at that as well. Worth grabbing this week. And then there is the Vex Gate Arrival Transman effect for 450 Bright Dust. We'll preview them in case you haven't seen them. Also the Champion entrance, which is a pretty cool one from back in Arrivals. And finally, the Catch Flight entrance up for grabs this week. So there we go, guys. That's the Eververse inventory. And let us know in the comments section if you plan to pick anything up. Keep in mind, Iron Banner does have its final 2 weeks of the season this week, if you want to dive back into that for any of the rewards. But we'll take a quick look at Banshee right here. Firstly, we've got the Memory Interdict, which has got Impulse Amplifier and Elemental Capacitor. Disparity at the moment has no distractions and Swashbuckler. Then we've got the Briar's Love Scout Rifle, which has got Rapid Hit, Destabilizing Rounds, so that might be one some folks might want to pick up. Not too shabby. There's also Ragnhild D with Perpetual Motion and Thresh, as well as Pizzicato, the SMG here, with Hipfire Grip and Demolitionist, but keep in mind the weapons and perks will change through the week. It's also worth a mention, there doesn't appear to be any movement just yet on the Bento Token Quest things, which Bungie referred to happening towards the end of the season, given that they said the final weeks of the episode, after this reset, there'll only be 2 weeks, so it seems pretty likely to drop next week, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Bit of a weird one. For the armor at Shader 1, down here in the annex, we've got the Tangled Web set of gear from Tangled Shore back in the day, if you want to add it to collections or check for stat rolls. But for shaders, we've got Dark Omolon up for grabs up first. Can be quite a nice shader, depending on gear. These are 10,000 Glimmer. There's also the Mad Monk available from back in the Warmind era as well, which can be pretty cool. And Warcult Endgame, which actually Shader 1 doesn't tend to sell too often if you want an older future Warcult shader to add to collections, so give us your thoughts below. For some final content mentions right here though, the Nightfall this week is Battleground Behemoth, and we've got Wild Style for the featured weapons, so if you still have to rolls on the weapon or indeed need the completion for Behemoth this week, it's a good time to jump in. Otherwise, we can pick up the Vexcalibur from the exotic mission Node Override Avalon, which is featured this week as well, and the exotic as well as all of its upgrades will be available. But speaking of farmable exotics, for raids, we also have Deepstone Crypt, which can drop the Eyes of Tomorrow, and Root of Nightmares, which of course drops Conditional Finality, both as featured raids, so all of their loot tables, including the exotic, are totally farmable this week, which is nice. And then we have Prophecy and Spire of the Watcher, which should be featured this week as well. But finally, we have the Lost Sector rotation for the remainder of the week. So today we've got the Forgotten Deep in the Pale Heart. For January 15th, we'll move over to Extraction in Savathun's Throne World, and then Sepulchre on January 16th, which is followed by Metamorphosis on the 17th. Then we move over to the Moon with K1 Revelation on January 18th, before heading back to Dreaming City with Bay of Drowned Wishes for the 19th, and Chamber of Starlight on January 20th. And from those activities, of course, we have chances at world drops, as well as exotic engrams potentially dropping on solo completions. So, as always, good luck if you are hunting anything down. For now though, that's what we have to talk about. So if you've enjoyed the video, a rating really does help us on the channel. Also be sure to get subscribed and I'll keep you up to date with more Destiny content. Otherwise, let us know once again if you're diving into any of the content available this week. And for now, I hope you guys have an awesome day.